Episode 3, Chocolate Cherry. The 8-ball electronic billiard and pinball machine dinged and clattered as Gabe and Angelica battled for the high score, their faces etched in twin masks of determination. Around them, the electric circus pulsed with light and sound, but they scarcely noticed, so engrossed were they in their friendly competition. At last, Angelica threw up her hands in mock surrender. All right, you win this round, wizard boy. But don't think you're the only one with magic fingers around here. Gabe grinned, poised to feed the machine another token. Rematch? Angelica shook her head, her ponytail swinging. Nah, I need a break. All that flip-flopping is hungry work. What do you say we grab a scoop at Peach's Corner? Gabe's stomach rumbled at the mention of the legendary ice cream parlor. Sounds good to me. Lead the way. They wove their way out of the arcade, blinking in the sudden brightness of the afternoon sun. Ocean Boulevard stretched before them, a garish carnival of souvenir shops, beach stores and eateries. The air smelled of salt and frying oil, and music spilled from every doorway, rock and roll, country twang, and the steady pulse of disco. Peach's Corner proclaimed itself in glowing neon cursive, the pastel-painted facade as sweet and welcoming as the promise of a triple scoop. Angelica bounded up to the window, Gabe on her heels. 2 scoops of butter pecan in a waffle cone, please, she told the smiling teen behind the counter, and 2 scoops of chocolate cherry for my friend here. Gabe shot her a curious look. How'd you know my favorite? Angelica winked. Lucky guess. You seem like a chocolate cherry kind of guy. They took their cones and settled on a nearby bench, watching the parade of beachgoers and tourists streaming by. For a few minutes they ate in companionable silence, savoring the rich creaminess of the ice cream and the salty ocean breeze ruffling their hair. So, Angelica said at last, licking a stray rivulet of melted butter pecan from her wrist. You said you're from Virginia, right? What brings you all the way down to Myrtle? Gabe shrugged. My dad's working construction for the summer, helping to build that new hotel up the beach. Angelica nodded. The Seaside Palace. My Auntie Yvonne works housekeeping there. Says it's going to be really fancy when it's done. Suites and swimming pools and a putting green. Sounds swell, Gabe said. He hesitated, suddenly shy. What about you? You from around here? Born and raised, Angelica confirmed. My folks came up from Charleston before I was born. Daddy works maintenance at the pavilion, and Mama slings hash at the Mammy's kitchen over on Kings Highway. Gabe nodded, casting a glance at the towering pavilion just across the street, its colorful flags fluttering in the breeze. Must be nice, having the pavilion right in your backyard like that. I bet you never get bored. Angelica laughed. You got that right. The pavilion's a trip, all right. Got a real old-fashioned amusement park, a music hall, roller skating, the works, and smack dab in the middle, the pavilion arcade. That's where I cut my teeth on the pinball machines. Gabe whistled appreciatively. Color me impressed. You'll have to show me your favorite spots sometime. I want to see if they can stand up to the electric circus. Oh, you're on, wizard boy, Angelica grinned. The pavilion's got tricks up its sleeve that'll make your head spin. But first, I want to show you something a little more old school. They lapsed into silence again, watching the gulls wheel and dive over the beach. Gabe snuck a glance at Angelica from the corner of his eye, admiring the way the sun brought out the rich undertones of her brown skin, the elegant curve of her cheekbones. She was like no girl he'd ever known back in Gate City, vibrant, quick-witted, and utterly at ease in her own skin. Hey, Angelica, he ventured, can I ask you something? She cocked an eyebrow. Shoot. When we met, you said, well, you called me a person of color, like you. Gabe felt his cheeks warming, and not just from the sun. What did you mean by that? Angelica studied him for a long moment, her dark eyes thoughtful. You're Melungeon, aren't you? She asked at last. Gabe blinked in surprise. How'd you know that? She shrugged. I pay attention. Your look, your last name. Melungeons are folk who got a mix of all kinds of blood, European, African, Native American. Kinda like me. My people are Gullah Geechee, originally from West Africa. But over time we got some other spice in the gumbo too. She grinned. Makes life more interesting, don't you think? Gabe couldn't help but smile back. All his life he'd felt caught between worlds, not quite fitting in with the white kids or the black kids back home. But here was Angelica, embracing her mixed heritage with pride and joy. It made something tight uncoil in Gabe's chest, a knot of shame and confusion he hadn't even known he'd been carrying. Yeah, he said softly. It sure does. Angelica hopped up from the bench, brushing sand from her cut-offs. Come on, I want to show you something cool. She led him down the strip to a squat, unassuming building wedged between a saltwater taffy stand and a t-shirt shop. The sign above the door read, Family Fun Center, in chipped paint, and through the open doors Gabe could hear the enticing pings and chimes of vintage arcade games. Inside, it was like stepping back in time. The room was crowded with classic penny arcade machines, from the old wooden fortune-teller booths to the iconic skee balls outlined in neon. The air smelled of dust and old paper, with an undertone of decades of spilled soda and cigarette smoke. Angelica weaved her way to the back, where a row of 1957 Williams pitch-and-bats stood like sentinels from a bygone era. The thick glass backings were hand-painted with cartoonish clowns and dancing animals, the brass fittings gleaming dully in the dim light. Now these, Angelica declared, running a reverent hand over the rich mahogany cabinet, are the real deal. They don't make 'em like this anymore. She fished a dime from her pocket and slid it into the coin slot. The machine clattered to life, the clown's eyes lighting up with mischievous glee. Angelica picked up one of the worn wooden balls and tossed it from hand to hand, eyeing the target. Watch and learn, Gabe, me boy. With a flick of her wrist, she sent the ball sailing into the clown's gaping mouth. Brass gears clanked and spun, and with a merry mechanical laugh, the clown spat out a stream of tickets. Gabe shook his head in amazement. Wow, you really are a wizard. Angelica preened, scooping up her tickets. Stick with me, kid. I'll show you all the tricks. They spent the next hour exploring the vintage machines, teasing and challenging each other. Angelica had a knack for the ball toss games, while Gabe excelled at the ones that required a steady hand and a keen eye. They were well matched, their competitive spirits balanced by a growing camaraderie. As the afternoon wore on, the sun slanting lower through the salt-crusted windows, Angelica glanced at the battered wristwatch she'd fished from her pocket. Shoot, I got a split. I'm supposed to meet my folks for supper at 5, and my brother Antoine'll kick up a fuss if I'm late. Gabe felt a pang of disappointment, but nodded in understanding. Yeah, I should probably get back to the room before my dad does. He'll want to know I stayed out of trouble. Angelica punched his shoulder lightly. Hanging out with me is staying out of trouble. I'm a respectable gal, I'll have you know. Gabe grinned. Respectable gals don't have such good pitching arms. You got me there. Angelica laughed. But seriously, though, I had fun today. It was really nice meeting you, Gabe. You too, Angelica. Maybe I'll see you again at the circus. Gabe hoped he didn't sound too eager, too desperate for her company. Angelica smiled, a warm, genuine thing that crinkled the corners of her eyes. Count on it, wizard boy. We still got to see who can take the top score on the El Dorado, remember? With a jaunty wave, she sauntered off, leaving Gabe alone with the smell of old popcorn and the whirring of gears. He stood for a moment, just grinning at nothing, his heart lighter than it had felt in a long time. He was still smiling when he let himself into the little room at the motor lodge he was sharing with his dad for the summer. The cramped space was cluttered with his father's work gear and smelled faintly of sweat and Bengay. But to Gabe, it might as well have been a palace. His dad emerged from the bathroom, toweling off his face, his work shirt damp with sink water. "There you are. Have a good day, did you?" Gabe nodded, the smile still tugging at his lips. "The best. Dad, the arcade is boss. They've got all the newest games and pinball machines like you wouldn't believe. And I met this girl, Angelica, and she—" His dad held up a hand, his expression caught between amusement and warning. "Whoa, now, slow down. A girl, huh?" Gabe felt his cheeks flush. "Not like that. She's just real good at pinball is all. We played together some. She's gonna show me around the pavilion sometime." His dad regarded him steadily for a long moment, then sighed. "All right, just be careful, son. Folk down here, they got some funny ideas about mixing. I don't want you getting no wrong notions." Gabe's heart sank a little at his dad's tone, but he summoned a smile anyway. "No, sir, we're just friends, honest." Well, wash up. I picked up some fried chicken from the Piggly Wiggly for supper." As Gabe splashed water on his face, he thought about what his dad had said. Wrong notions, funny ideas about mixing. He knew what his dad meant, knew the unspoken rules, the lines you didn't cross. But when he thought about Angelica, her quick smile, her sharp wit, the easy way she carried herself, those lines seemed awfully blurry. She made him feel like himself, understood in a way he never had before. Was that such a bad thing? Gabe shook his head, dispelling the heavy thoughts. It had been a good day. A great day, even. He wasn't going to let anyone spoil it, not even his dad and his notions. He had a friend. A real friend who shared his passions and sparked his joy. A friend who made the spinning colors of the electric circus seem brighter, the chiming of the machines sweeter. And that, Gabe reckoned as he carved into his fried chicken, was a rare magic indeed, the kind of enchantment that even the most cynical world couldn't touch. Not as long as there were still pinball wizards and penny arcades, not as long as there were still summers that shimmered with salt air and possibility.